Because of a lover he had never met, Zhang Bin murdered 4 people in a family. Blind love turned an unemployed man into a cold-blooded killer. The victims were brutally murdered, and the killings occurred within less than 24 hours. The plan seemed sophisticated on the surface, but in reality, he was just a pawn manipulated by someone else. Behind him was a schemer aiming to embezzle more than 1.7 million yuan from the victim's family. It sounds like a movie plot, but this is entirely a true story that took place in Inner Mongolia, China. Let's uncover the dark secrets and thrilling details you've never heard before. Don't forget to like and subscribe to explore today's story with us. The case unfolded in Shilinhat City, located amidst the grasslands of Inner Mongolia. On January 2, 2024, at around 4 p.m., the Shilinhat City Police Department received an emergency report. A panicked man's voice said, "Hello police, my sister, Miss Shui Bing, has just been murdered. Please come to Jiaqi town immediately." Upon receiving the report, the investigative team immediately set out. Upon arrival, curious locals had crowded around the scene. In the bedroom of the house, Miss Shui Bing, approximately 50 years old, lay lifeless on the bed with multiple deep wounds. The bed was soaked in blood. Forensic doctors quickly examined the body. They determined the time of death to be around 3 p.m. that day. The blood was still wet, and the victim's body was warm, indicating the killer had struck not long before. The reporter was Mr. Zhang Yutai, the victim's younger brother, who lived over 100 meters away from her house. He recounted, "This morning, her youngest son, Wang Jing, called me asking me to check on his mother. When I arrived, she had already been killed." Initial evidence suggested the case could be a robbery. Drawers were ransacked, belongings scattered everywhere, and a blood-stained shirt and pair of sneakers were found in the living room. However, police did not rule out the possibility that the killer created this scene to mislead the investigation. The front door and windows showed no signs of forced entry. This indicated the killer was likely someone the victim knew and had let into the house. Upon hearing the news, the victim's 2 children, Wang Jing, 26 years old, and Wang Chai, 22 years old, quickly returned home. Accompanying them was Zhang Lin, Wang Jing's boyfriend. He appeared deeply sorrowful, almost collapsing when he saw Ms. Bing's body through the window. Once the family calmed down, the police began collecting statements. At this point, Wang Jing, still choking with emotion, recounted, "At around 11 a.m. today, while I was at work, I received a strange text message from a man named Zhang Bin. The message contained just one sentence. The game has just begun. I thought he sent it to the wrong person and didn't pay much attention to it. I know this man. He has been to our house several times and claimed to work at the traffic police department. He also said he had collaborated with my father, Mr. Wang Tap, on some construction projects." About 20 minutes later, Wang Jing received another message from the same number. Its content sent chills down her spine. "Your father, Wang Tap, has been kidnapped. Prepare 1 million yuan in ransom or he will die. Do not call the police." Along with the message, the kidnapper sent a bank account number for the transfer. Terrified, Wang Jing immediately tried calling her father, but there was no answer. She rushed home only to hear from her mother that Mr. Wang Tap had left earlier in the morning to meet a business partner. Wang Jing then tried to contact the kidnapper again. This time, he sent her a location for the ransom drop-off at Jiako Park. With no other options, she and her younger brother, Wang Chai, quickly prepared the money and headed there. Upon arriving at Jiaku Park, they waited for a long time, but no one appeared. When they called again, the kidnapper did not answer. Instead, a new message arrived. "Your cousin, Shui Ru, and her husband, Wang Jun, have also been kidnapped. Prepare additional money, or they too will die." Wang Jing, trembling, continued, "This is not the first time something like this has happened. My mother usually worries and calls to check in when anything unusual happens. But today, she didn't call. It feels strange." At this point, Wang Chai interrupted. "I asked Uncle Zhang Yutai to check on Mom while we were out. I never expected things to turn out like this when we came back." Zhanglin chimed in. "I also received a message from the same phone number, saying that your father had been kidnapped. He demanded I tell Wang Jing and Wang Kai to go to Jiako Park to negotiate the ransom." The police quickly realized the severity of the case. This was no longer a simple murder, but potentially part of a larger scheme. The perpetrator had prepared the plan meticulously. Based on the information from the victim's family, the investigation team began analyzing clues. The first was the text messages to Wang Jing. The SIM card used by the kidnapper was registered under a real name, Zhang Bin. Why reveal himself so easily? Moreover, could he really have kidnapped 3 people at once? That seemed implausible. Additionally, the perpetrator acted at a time when he knew Wang Jing and Wang Tai were not at home, indicating that he must have been familiar with the family and their schedule. From the outset, the case faced many challenges, but the primary lead focused on the name Zhang Bin. The police immediately divided into 2 teams. One continued investigating the crime scene for additional evidence, while the other focused on identifying Zhang Bin's real identity and tracking his current location. Using the bank account information from the text messages, the police confirmed that Zhang Bin did not work at the traffic police department as he had claimed. In reality, he was an itinerant individual without a stable job, living in Shilinhot City. A large-scale manhunt was launched. Officers spread out across major roads, train stations, and hotels to track him. Surveillance cameras near the crime scene were meticulously reviewed. After hours of data analysis, a clear image emerged. Zhang Bin, walking stealthily, was seen on a street about 100 meters from the crime scene at the time of the incident. Clearly, this was no coincidence. The investigation expanded to focus on locations where Zhang Bin might hide, including motels, budget hotels, and areas around train stations. At this point, a taxi driver reported that earlier that morning he had driven a man matching Zhang Bin's description to the main train station. Surveillance cameras at the station also confirmed his presence. Based on Zhang Bin's movements, the police believed he was trying to leave the city. All train stations, bus terminals, and major roads were put under strict surveillance. On January 4th, during the search for Zhang Bin, the investigation team received information from a hotel receptionist in the city center. The receptionist confirmed that Zhang Bin had checked in on January 2nd and had not yet checked out. Police forces were immediately deployed to surround the hotel. However, when they raided the room, an unexpected twist occurred. On the bed was not Zhang Bin, but another body. The victim was identified as Mr. Wang Jun, the husband of Miss Shui Ru. The man had been struck on the head with a fatal blow, leading to instant death. Signs of disturbance suggested the victim had been dragged into the room post-mortem. Forensic doctors estimated the time of death to be around 9 a.m. on January 2nd, prior to Miss Shui Bing's murder. This proved that Zhang Bin had begun his murder spree much earlier, with Wang Jun as his first victim. The hotel receptionist recalled that Zhang Bin had prepaid for the room for 10 days and requested not to be disturbed. Moreover, he appeared very normal, not resembling a killer. While the officers were discussing the scene, another urgent report came in. Zhang Bin had used his driver's license to rent a room at another hotel 50 meters away that same afternoon. The investigation team immediately moved to the second hotel. The tension rose as they broke down the door, revealing yet another horrifying scene. On the floor lay Miss Shui Ru's lifeless body. Forensics determined that Miss Shui Ru had died from mechanical asphyxiation. There were no signs of assault or external injuries, indicating that the perpetrator had strangled her using his hands or a hard object. The time of death for Miss Shui Ru was estimated to be around 10 a.m. on January 2nd, just an hour after her husband, Wang Jun, was killed. Police concluded that with 2 victims already dead, Mr. Wang Tap's safety was now of grave concern. News of the serial murders quickly spread throughout the city. Newspapers and online platforms reported widely, putting immense pressure on law enforcement to apprehend the killer. The head of the investigation team ordered an urgent manhunt. The city's surveillance camera network was activated, focusing on routes leading in and out of the city, bus terminals, train stations, and even border areas. Meanwhile, the analysis team continued to review Zhang Bin's social connections to uncover any motives or accomplices that might be linked to the murders. They believed Zhang Bin could not have executed such a plan alone. The police also released Zhang Bin's photo through media outlets, warning the public about his danger and urging them to report any sightings of the suspect. However, they knew this would not bring quick results. According to Wang Jing and Zhang Lin's statements, Mr. Wang Tap, Wang Jun, and Miss Shui Ru were all collaborating on a highway construction project. During this process, they met Zhang Bin, who claimed to have connections in the transportation industry. However, Wang Jing revealed a critical detail. Zhang Bin did not approach the family on his own, but was introduced by Zhang Lin, her boyfriend. This raised questions for the police. Was Zhang Lin deceived by Zhang Bin, or did he have a role in this plan? The investigation team considered the possibility that Zhang Bin had been hired by competitors to pressure or eliminate Wang Tap's family from the highway project. However, they were puzzled by the fact that Zhang Bin had previously been acquainted with the family. Why did he turn against them to commit such brutal murders? Major questions arose. What was the true relationship between the victims and Zhang Bin? Why was Miss Shui Bing, who was not directly involved in the project, also killed so brutally? To uncover the truth, capturing Zhang Bin became the top priority. After days of searching, early on April 10th, a taxi driver reported that he had transported a passenger resembling Zhang Bin to Beijing. The taxi's onboard camera captured the passenger, and the investigation team confirmed it was the suspect. Inner Mongolia police immediately sought assistance from Beijing authorities. A special task force was dispatched to the capital to apprehend the murderer. With the cooperation of Beijing police, Zhang Bin's hideout was located in a small apartment in the outskirts. When the special task force broke down the door, the apartment was empty except for items like iodine solution and bandages, suggesting he was injured and treating himself. Beijing's dense population and complex traffic posed a major challenge for the investigation team. However, the Inner Mongolia police were determined not to let him escape. A tight control network was established with cooperation from multiple agencies. The police planned a three-pronged operation, including surveillance systems on major roads and train stations. Finally, the investigation team uncovered a key clue. Zhang Bin was traveling in a taxi heading northeast. A blockade order was issued immediately, focusing particularly on the border areas between northeastern provinces. Believing Zhang Bin was trying to flee the country, the police issued an emergency nationwide manhunt across 3 northeastern provinces and requested border security cooperation to ensure he could not leave China. As the pursuit intensified, Zhang Lin, Wang Jing's boyfriend, suddenly provided a critical piece of information. Zhang Bin is armed and dangerous. Be careful, he may resist at any moment. This warning heightened the investigation team's alertness. Zhang Lin, though not married to Wang Jing, showed special concern for her family's tragedy. He actively supported the investigation team, closely following every lead. However, some investigators began to question his true motives. After receiving Zhang Lin's warning, police deployed forces across local areas, fully equipped and prepared for any unexpected scenarios. At 2 a.m. on April 16th, thanks to surveillance cameras at a toll station, the investigation team spotted the taxi carrying Zhang Bin. Through the cameras, they saw him sleeping in the car. Officers acted immediately. They quickly surrounded the vehicle and successfully apprehended Zhang Bin without encountering any resistance. Surprisingly, when he saw the police, he remained completely calm, did not resist, and willingly surrendered. Zhang Bin was taken back to Inner Mongolia for further investigation. In the interrogation room, he admitted to all his actions, claiming, "Everything was planned and carried out by me alone. No one else was involved." When asked about his motive for the murders, Zhang Bin stated, "I sought revenge for my girlfriend. That's all I needed to do." This statement left the investigators puzzled. Who was his girlfriend, and why was Wang Tap's family involved? The investigation team worked to uncover more details about the girlfriend Zhang Bin mentioned. He only gave vague hints. She was hurt by the Wang family. I just returned justice for her. Experienced investigators began to suspect that Zhang Bin was hiding something. Did he truly act alone, or was someone manipulating him? The investigation had to expand to uncover the truth behind his strange confession. Police continued to investigate the connection between Zhang Bin and the Wang family. A detailed plan was drawn up to understand his relationship with individuals who might have influenced his criminal motivations. When investigators inquired about Wang Tap's whereabouts, Zhang Bin coldly responded, "I killed him and burned his body with gasoline. There's nothing left to find." Zhang Bin led police to a desolate field where he claimed to have murdered and incinerated Wang Tap's body. When the investigation team arrived, only ashes and burn marks remained, proving the perpetrator had made a thorough effort to erase all traces. Forensic experts collected samples of the ashes for further analysis. An investigator concluded, burning a body like this shows he was well prepared. This confirms Zhang Bin acted alone in the series of murders. In the next interrogation, Zhang Bin began revealing details about the girlfriend he mentioned. Her name is Xiaolan. We met online 2 years ago. She's an American of Chinese descent living in the US. She told me I was her only support. We never met in person, but I knew she was genuine, Zhang Bin said with a solemn tone. According to Zhang Bin, Xiaolan had come from a wealthy family, but her father ended up in prison, and her mother passed away from illness. Before her death, her mother left behind a large inheritance in China. She said the Wang family was trying to seize it. Xiaolan promised to return to Beijing on January 30th to meet Zhang Bin and protect her assets. However, on that day, she stopped communicating and disappeared entirely. This led Zhang Bin to suspect the Wang family had kidnapped and murdered her. With the motive of protecting his girlfriend, Zhang Bin began planning his revenge. On the morning of January 2nd, he lured Mr. Wang Tap to a field outside the city under the pretense of discussing the highway project. When Mr. Wang Tap arrived, Zhang Bin immediately subdued him and demanded to know Xiaolan's whereabouts. Mr. Wang Tap, having no idea who she was, denied knowing anything. In a fit of rage, Zhang Bin stabbed him multiple times and then incinerated the body with gasoline. After murdering Mr. Wang Tap, Zhang Bin did not stop. At around 8 a.m., he sent a message to arrange a meeting with Wang Jun, Wang Jing's brother-in-law, at another hotel to discuss business. Wang Jun, suspecting nothing, arrived on time. As soon as he entered the room, Zhang Bin attacked him with an iron rod, delivering a fatal blow to his head, killing him instantly. Zhang Bin quickly paid for the room for several days in advance and posted a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door, preventing hotel staff from discovering the crime immediately. At 9:30 a.m., Zhang Bin used Wang Jun's phone to send a message to Miss Sheru, Wang Jun's wife, requesting a meeting at another nearby hotel. Miss Sheru promptly went to meet him, believing her husband needed to discuss work. As soon as she closed the door, Zhang Bin emerged from behind and strangled her to death. Zhang Bin left the hotel within 5 minutes, paying for the room in advance for several days, and instructed the receptionist not to disturb the room. The crime remained hidden for several days before being discovered. At 11 a.m. the same day, Zhang Bin returned to Mr. Wang Tap's home. He saw Miss She Bing and her son, Wang Jing, at home. Realizing he couldn't act immediately, he devised another plan. Zhang Bin pretended to send a message to Wang Jing, informing her that Mr. Wang Tap had been kidnapped and demanding a ransom. He designated a meeting place to lure the siblings away from the house. As soon as Wang Jing and Wang Kong left the house at 2 p.m., Zhang Bin snuck in. With a knife in hand, he brutally murdered Miss Shui Bing with multiple fatal stabs. After committing the murder, Zhang Bin staged the crime scene to make it look like a robbery. He ransacked the house, leaving blood-stained clothes and shoes at the scene to complicate the investigation. Police concluded that the series of murders occurred in a tightly scheduled sequence, indicating that the perpetrator had meticulously premeditated the crimes. Zhang Bin then quickly fled the scene and decided to head to Beijing, hoping to meet Xiaolan before being caught. In his distorted reasoning, eliminating Wang Tap's family was a way to protect his girlfriend from danger. However, upon arriving in Beijing, Zhang Bin was deeply disappointed when he could not contact Xiaolan. Her social media accounts were inactive, and there were no signs that she had come to China as promised. Zhang Bin began to fall into a state of confusion and despair. If I can't meet her, there's no reason to go on, he thought. He decided not to flee any further and waited for the police to arrest him. This explains why Zhang Bin did not resist arrest and appeared very calm. However, there was still one baffling detail in his confession. Who was Xiaolan? Investigators realized that the entire relationship between Zhang Bin and Xiaolan existed only online, with no evidence proving she was a real person. If Xiaolan didn't exist, who created the account and manipulated Jiang Bin? There had to be someone behind this. Some team members began to suspect Jiang Lin, Wang Jing's boyfriend. He was the one who introduced Jiang Bin to the Wang family, and seemed to know about the connection between Jiang Bin and Xiaolan. Throughout the pursuit of Jiang Bin, Jiang Lin consistently provided enthusiastic assistance and information to the investigation. However, his excessive eagerness began to raise red flags for the police. Investigators discovered that Jiang Lin had lied about his employment at the Transportation Department. The Inner Mongolia Transportation Department confirmed that no employee named Jiang Lin worked there. When summoned for questioning, Jiang Lin initially remained calm, but when confronted by Wang Jing, he became flustered and could not provide reasonable explanations. Surveillance cameras also captured footage of Jiang Bin using Jiang Lin's car to purchase gasoline just before the crimes occurred. Under pressure from evidence and Wang Jing's confrontation, Jiang Lin admitted to knowing about the crimes. Moreover, he confessed that he had created the character Xiaolan to manipulate Jiang Bin. Jiang Lin revealed that the entire plan was his own design, with Jiang Bin merely acting as a puppet under his control. He used the story of Xiaolan to convince Jiang Bin that the Wang family was conspiring against his girlfriend. Jiang Lin's true motive was to embezzle money from Mr. Wang Tap's family. When he realized he couldn't fulfill his promises about the project, he decided to use Jiang Bin to clear the way and eliminate anyone who knew too much. The story of Xiaolan was nothing more than an elaborate hoax orchestrated by Jiang Lin. He not only deceived Jiang Bin, but also the Wang family. When Jiang Bin learned the truth about Xiaolan, he was utterly devastated. He couldn't believe he had killed 4 innocent people because of a lie. "I just wanted to protect her. I didn't know it was all fake," he stammered through tears. The police concluded the investigation with a shocking revelation. Everything Jiang Bin had done was part of Jiang Lin's plan. With clear evidence, both were prosecuted and brought to justice. During the interrogation, Jiang Lin calmly confessed to his entire fraudulent scheme, starting from his approach to Mr. Wang Tap through his relationship with Wang Jing. He admitted that his initial goal was to gain the Wang family's trust to execute his subsequent plans. Jiang Lin portrayed himself as a successful man with extensive connections, claiming to work for the Transportation Department. He promised to help the Wang family secure a lucrative highway construction contract. To enhance his credibility, Jiang Lin enlisted Jiang Bin, an old friend, to impersonate a senior official. He also organized intimate dinners, inviting the Wang family and Jiang Bin to attend, building deep trust. Jiang Lin fabricated a fake highway construction project, claiming profits could reach 50 million yuan. He persuaded Mr. Wang Tap and the couple Wang Jun and Sheiru to invest. Initially, Mr. Wang Tap was skeptical and reluctant to invest a large sum, but due to Jiang Lin's romantic relationship with Wang Jing, he decided to trust him. Mr. Wang Tap and the couple agreed to contribute 1.7 million yuan for the initial phase. After receiving the money, Jiang Lin indulged in extravagant spending without implementing any projects. He quickly squandered the funds, raising Mr. Wang Tap's suspicions and demands for project updates. Realizing that the truth was about to be exposed, Jiang Lin devised a crazy plan to eliminate all witnesses. He decided to exploit Jiang Bin, who was blinded by his love for Xiaolan, a character entirely created by Jiang Lin. Jiang Lin admitted that 2 years earlier he had created a fake social media account, posing as Xiaolan, a sweet and gentle girl. He knew Jiang Bin was shy with women, but very trusting and loyal. Jiang Lin spent considerable time wooing Jiang Bin online, using another woman's voice for calls. After 2 years, Jiang Bin fully believed that Xiaolan was his true love. Jiang Lin crafted a tragic backstory for Xiaolan, claiming that her family had been harmed and their assets seized by the Wang family. This enraged Jiang Bin, making him willing to do anything to protect his virtual girlfriend. Jiang Lin then steered Jiang Bin into the role of an avenger. He provided detailed information about the Wang family members, convincing Jiang Bin that they were responsible for Xiaolan's disappearance. Jiang Lin confessed that, to completely remove suspicion, he reported to the police that Jiang Bin was carrying dangerous weapons, hoping the police would shoot Jiang Bin during his capture. This plan was meant to erase all connections between himself and the murders. Faced with undeniable evidence, Zhang Bin gradually realized he was merely a pawn in Zhanlin's scheme. He was utterly devastated upon learning that Xiaolan never existed, and all his actions were based on a lie. The police concluded that the entire series of murders resulted from Zhanlin's elaborate scheme. In the trial held in Inner Mongolia, Zhang Bin was sentenced to death for killing 4 people. Zhang Lin, although not directly involved in the murders, was the mastermind. He was convicted of fraud, organizing murders, and endangering society, also receiving a death sentence. Although the perpetrators of the evil acts could not escape justice, the crimes they committed left an indelible pain for those who remained. This concludes the video. Thank you for following this thrilling story. If you found this video captivating, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss more exciting stories in the future. In 2016, female student Li Yangji, 22 years old, was forced to participate in a physical group activity. However, the perpetrators did not stop at torture. They brutally murdered her to satisfy their twisted desires. Although the perpetrators were arrested shortly afterward, the complex relationships between the suspects and local officials caused the case to drag on for 35 court sessions before reaching a final verdict. The incident outraged the community and became one of the most prominent news stories in Germany at the time. You are following a true story. Let's uncover the dark secrets and thrilling details you've never heard before. Don't forget to like and subscribe to explore its story with us. The city of Dessau, where the incident occurred, is located in eastern Germany, just 110 kilometers from Berlin. Anhalt University of Applied Sciences, where our victim, Li Yangji, studied, is one of the top universities for arts and technology in the area. And everything began on May 11, 2016, when Li Yangji said goodbye to her friends and left her apartment for her usual jog. However, she didn't return that night. The following morning, Li Yangji's close friend, Zhou Lihong, sent her a WeChat message inviting her to breakfast. Unlike usual, the message received no response, causing Zhou to worry. Shortly after, Li Yangji's roommate called Zhou Lihong to ask if Li was with her, as Li had not returned home all night and wasn't answering her phone. Both became concerned because Li Yangji was a serious and cautious student. She never stayed out overnight or visited unsafe places, raising their worries. The roommate and Zhou Lihong reported the matter to the university. Teachers and students were immediately organized into groups to search classrooms, laboratories, libraries, and areas she frequented, but Li Yangji was nowhere to be found. After hours of fruitless searching, the university decided to notify the Dessau police at 1 p.m. Upon receiving the report, Dessau police quickly launched a large-scale search operation. Helicopters, police dogs, and professional investigators were deployed, with a focus on high-crime areas in the city. The local Chinese community in Dessau also actively joined the search after learning of the incident. However, after a day and night of efforts, there were still no clues about Li Yangji, raising fears that she might have encountered something worse than expected. On the morning of May 13th, the police tried calling Li Yangji's phone. Unexpectedly, the call connected, but a strange male voice answered before abruptly hanging up. The call was too short for the police to trace. Around 11 a.m. the same day, a construction worker on Ham Street discovered the naked body of an Asian woman between a public restroom and some bushes. He immediately alerted the police. The police confirmed the woman was deceased and conducted an on-site autopsy. DNA analysis identified the victim as Li Yangji, who had been missing for 2 days. Li Yangji's body bore severe injuries. Her bones were fractured in multiple places, her face was badly damaged, and traces of bodily fluids from others were found in her body. These injuries indicated she had endured a horrifying night before being murdered. Li Yangji, born in 1992 in the city of Xuchang, Henan Province, China, was the only child in her family. Her father was a veteran police officer, and her mother was a teacher. From a young age, she excelled academically and outperformed her peers. After graduating from high school, Li Yangji was admitted to the Department of Architecture at Henan University of Science and Technology. With outstanding academic achievements, she was selected in 2014 to pursue a master's degree at Anhalt University of Applied Sciences in Germany. Although her family was not wealthy, her parents did everything they could to send her abroad, hoping for a bright future for their daughter. Upon hearing the tragic news on May 20th, Li Yangji's parents arrived in Dessau to claim her body. Li Yangji's mother knelt on the ground, so overwhelmed with grief that she had no tears left to cry. Meanwhile, her father, a seasoned criminal investigator, remained silent, his sorrowful eyes reflecting deep contemplation. The next day, the couple visited the apartment where their daughter had lived to retrieve her belongings. With decades of experience, Li Yangji's father requested to participate in examining the crime scene. Dessau police agreed and informed him that the surrounding area had been cordoned off for investigation. During the investigation, the police thoroughly searched all trash bins in the area and found some pieces of Li Yangji's clothing. DNA analysis confirmed that these matched the DNA on the victim's body. However, no suspect information was found in the database. Li Yangji's father began to suspect something was amiss. He paced between his daughter's apartment and the location where her body was found, trying to piece together the details. Suddenly, he realized that the location where the body was discovered was not far from Li Yangji's apartment, on a route she often jogged. If this was a premeditated crime, why would the murderer leave the body in such an easily discoverable location? He wondered. From this observation, he hypothesized that the crime might not have been pre-planned, but rather occurred spontaneously. He also questioned whether the perpetrator could be someone living in the vicinity. Upon hearing this analysis, the investigators were surprised. They admitted that they initially thought the location where the body was found was simply a random disposal site, but the father's reasoning seemed plausible. The police immediately deployed personnel to survey and interrogate residents in the surrounding area. However, after 10 days of searching, they found no significant leads. Just as the case was nearing a deadlock and police were preparing to expand their investigation, a young couple unexpectedly appeared at the Dessau police station. They claimed to have crucial information that could help solve the case. The story told by this couple stunned the entire investigative team. The details they revealed were not only bizarre, but also shed some light on what might have truly happened. Sebastian Fletcher and Sonia Lang arrived at the Dessau police station with shocking information. Sebastian, born in 1996, and Sonia, born in 1997, were a young couple living off financial support from their families. Sonia had 3 children, 2 of whom were fathered by Sebastian. Neither had completed compulsory education in Germany. Without stable jobs, they lived in an apartment provided by Sebastian's family. Notably, their apartment was located right next to where Li Yangji's body was discovered. Sebastian claimed that on the evening of May 10th, he was at home watching cartoons while Sonia went out for a walk. According to Sebastian, Sonia happened to meet Li Yangji jogging. Impressed by her cute appearance, Sonia approached her and invited her to participate in a group physical activity. Surprisingly, Li Yangji agreed and followed Sonia to their apartment. The 3 spent what Sebastian described as a fun time. Afterward, he claimed, Li Yangji even suggested they meet again in the future. Sebastian further stated that when they heard about Li Yangji's death, they worried that their DNA on her body might cause unnecessary trouble. So, the couple decided to come forward and provide information. Dessau police conducted DNA tests and confirmed that the DNA found in the victim's body belonged to Sebastian. Due to the severity of the case and public pressure, the police detained the couple and searched their apartment for further investigation. On May 24th, prosecutor F. Peterman held a press conference announcing that Sebastian and Sonia were the main suspects. However, he also emphasized that the information was still being verified and that the victim participated voluntarily. The press conference sparked outrage. The prosecutor not only tarnished Li Yangji's reputation, but also misled public opinion. The victim's family was deeply offended by these unsubstantiated claims. Meanwhile, police found visible bloodstains on the floor, sofa, walls, and even the ceiling of Sebastian and Sonia's apartment, completely contradicting their claims of voluntary participation. Additionally, one of Li Yangji's close friends visited the police station and confirmed that he had met her at the central station on the evening of May 10th, and they had a brief conversation. Another witness corroborated this timeline. Witnesses provided evidence showing that Sebastian and Sonia had lied about their timeline and encounter with Li Yangji. This raised the question, why did they fabricate the story? And why did the police publicly release such baseless information? The situation became even more complicated as public suspicion grew about the honesty of the police and whether they were deliberately concealing something. Conflicting details began to emerge, making the case a focal point of attention across Germany. Li Yangji's father, as a seasoned criminal investigator, urged the investigative team to expand their search area and put pressure on the suspects. He believed this was the only way to unravel the mysteries of the case. Under pressure from the victim's family, the public, and the media, Sebastian Fletcher and Sonia Lang began to show signs of unease. Maintaining their fabricated story became increasingly difficult as contradictions were continually exposed. The incident also led Chinese students and the local Chinese community in Germany to protest strongly, demanding greater transparency from the German police in evidence collection and processing, while condemning any attempts to conceal or protect the suspects. The wave of public outrage gradually put immense pressure on the authorities. Eventually, the media uncovered shocking secrets about the case and the individuals involved. A bombshell revelation emerged. Sebastian Fletcher's mother was a senior official in the Dessau police force, and his stepfather was the chief of police there. This connection could vaguely explain some of the statements made by the police. Perhaps you're thinking what I'm thinking. This couple seems to be protected by the local law enforcement agency. Shortly thereafter, journalists uncovered that Fletcher had been linked to over 40 separate incidents, including harassment, theft, and abuse of women. However, he had never been prosecuted, thanks to his family's protection. Under increasing pressure from the Chinese community and international public opinion, the German authorities were forced to suspend Fletcher's mother and stepfather with pay and transfer the case to the Halle City Police Department for further investigation. This transfer marked a significant turning point in the case, with hopes that the new investigative body would ensure greater objectivity and fairness, unaffected by personal connections. From here, new clues began to surface. A neighbor revealed that they had seen Fletcher and his parents carrying several large trash bags out of the apartment on the night of the incident. The act resembled a hurried but suspicious move. Police examined Fletcher's apartment and found it had been meticulously cleaned. However, specialized equipment still detected over 100 bloodstains scattered throughout, including on the ceiling over 3 meters high, clear evidence of a gruesome crime. Some nearby neighbors confirmed hearing a woman's prolonged cries for help on the night of the incident. However, knowing that Fletcher and Sonia Lang had peculiar preferences in their personal life, they did not intervene. At this point, the Dessau police received surveillance footage from an antique shop located on the first floor of Fletcher's building. This video had previously gone uninvestigated. No one had even looked into it. The footage showed that at 9:20 p.m. on May 11th, Li Yangji was stopped by Sonia Lang while jogging. In the video, Sonia appeared nervous, seemingly asking for help. After a minute of hesitation, Li Yangji agreed to follow Sonia into the apartment. This was the last time she appeared on camera. At 2:30 a.m., the camera recorded Fletcher leaving the apartment. He seemed anxious and was checking the surroundings before quickly returning. However, there were no further traces of Li Yangji leaving the apartment. As the evidence became increasingly clear, Fletcher's parents claimed that the move was pre-planned due to mold in the apartment affecting their health. But the landlord quickly refuted this claim. The landlord revealed that Fletcher had not only prepaid 6 months' rent, but also requested that the apartment not be rented to anyone else. This raised further suspicion that he was trying to erase evidence of the crime. Telecommunication records showed that Fletcher contacted his mother more than 10 times on May 12th, an unusually high number of calls immediately after Li Yangji's disappearance. Notably, just before Fletcher turned himself in at the police station, he made a 40-minute phone call to his mother. The content of the call has not been disclosed, but it may have been a coordinated effort to conceal or mitigate his responsibility. On November 25, 2016, the case of Li Yangji was brought to trial at the Dessau court. The courtroom was packed with the victim's family, journalists, and concerned citizens. Sebastian Fletcher's parents spared no expense in hiring a team of high-profile lawyers to reduce his sentence. Fletcher and Sonia Lang entered the courtroom with their faces covered, avoiding eye contact with anyone. The defense team began by undermining the credibility of the key evidence, focusing on the surveillance footage from the antique shop. They argued that it did not record any violence and could not prove that Li Yangji was harmed. The defense also emphasized that using footage from public surveillance cameras could violate privacy rights, thereby diminishing its legal value in court. However, the prosecution countered strongly, presenting additional evidence. They revealed that days before the incident, Fletcher had searched his computer for terms related to kidnapping and assaulting Asian women. Prosecutors highlighted Fletcher's search history, which included instructions on how to hide a body. These searches were conducted early on May 11th, just before the incident. Analysis of Fletcher's and Sonia Lang's phones uncovered numerous disturbing videos, showcasing their interest in violent and manipulative acts. Combined with the surveillance footage, DNA results, and other findings, these pieces of evidence painted a comprehensive picture of the suspect's actions and intentions. Under the weight of irrefutable evidence, Sonia Lang began to waver. During her lawyer's arguments, her gaze became unfocused, showing signs of confusion and unease. The prosecutor emphasized, the evidence not only proves the crime, but also reveals how Fletcher and Lang manipulated the system to cover up their atrocities. Fletcher remained absolutely silent, refusing to answer any questions. He relied entirely on his legal team for rebuttals, which only further fueled the anger of the victim's family and the public. Li Yangji's parents sat silently in court, their faces filled with pain and determination. They believed that justice would prevail despite the strong defense mounted by the suspects. During the 10th trial session, Sonia Lang unexpectedly changed her attitude. After remaining silent for many sessions, she began revealing dark truths about the case. It was unclear why she chose to do so. Sonia disclosed that she had been abused by her stepfather as a child, leaving her insecure and constantly seeking acceptance. When she met Fletcher, she thought she had found support, but the relationship quickly turned into dependency and abuse. She revealed that Fletcher often forced her to participate in perverse activities and threatened violence if she did not comply. On the night of the crime, Fletcher demanded that Sonia find a woman to participate in their games. Under pressure from her boyfriend, Sonia approached Li Yangji during her jog. Sonia used the excuse of needing help moving a large box to lure Li Yangji into their apartment. As soon as she stepped inside, Fletcher subdued her. According to Sonia's account, that entire night was a harrowing ordeal. Every time Li Yangji resisted, Fletcher used violence to intimidate her. After it was all over, Sonia went upstairs to shower. When she returned, she was horrified to see the floor covered in blood. She asked Fletcher what had happened, and he coldly replied, "She's not breathing anymore." Sonia cried and asked why Fletcher hadn't let Li Yangji go. He simply replied, "She didn't listen." The two then packed Li Yangji's body into a trash bin. Fletcher opened the second-floor window and threw the body out into the night to conceal their crime. Fletcher's reason for going out for a walk early that morning was to ensure that the body was well hidden. It was an act to erase his traces. Sonia's lawyer emphasized that she was also a victim of Fletcher's abuse. They appealed to the court for a lighter sentence for her, citing her traumatic past and the violence she endured in the relationship. The prosecution argued that Sonia was not just a victim but also an accomplice. It was she who lured Li Yangji into the apartment, leading to the young woman's tragic death. Forensic reports revealed an important detail. Li Yangji's hand tightly clutched a tuft of Sonia's hair, indicating that there had been a struggle between them. The prosecution argued that without Sonia's involvement, Li Yangji would never have fallen into Fletcher's trap. This raised significant questions about her level of responsibility in the crime. Fletcher, through his lawyer, continued to seek leniency by claiming psychological issues. He stated that his actions were uncontrollable due to childhood trauma. On August 4, 2017, after 35 trial sessions, the Dessau court sentenced Fletcher to life imprisonment without parole for murder and sexual assault. Sonia Lang received a sentence of 5.5 years in prison for her role as an accomplice in the crime. The families of the two defendants were ordered to pay emotional compensation to Li Yangji's family. The court declared that there was insufficient evidence to convict Fletcher's parents of covering up the crime, but public suspicion about their involvement lingered. After the verdict was announced, both Fletcher and Sonia appealed. Fletcher argued that life imprisonment was too harsh, while Sonia claimed that she was coerced and should not bear responsibility. Both appeals were rejected. The court upheld the original verdict, affirming that the evidence sufficiently proved each party's role in the crime. As the case closed, both German and Chinese communities expressed deep sorrow for Li Yangji. Chinese students organized memorials, reminding each other to stay vigilant in unfamiliar environments. Fletcher's family, although not convicted, continued to face public scrutiny. Ultimately, from the moment the couple turned themselves in, some of the truth could already be guessed. But justice always requires arguments and evidence. The case concluded with valuable lessons about trust, vigilance, and justice. This video ends here. Thank you for following this intriguing story. If you found this video engaging, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to not miss the next fascinating stories. In England, the murderer Mary Bell coldly killed two victims aged 3 and 4 just to seek attention. Cases like this might not be shocking to people anymore, but there is one key difference in this case. The murderer was only 11 years old. You heard that right, only 11 years old, but Mary Bell knew how to create an alibi with her innocent appearance, and the method of her killings was no different from that of serial killers. This is a true story that took place in England in 1968, with intriguing and captivating details that you've probably never heard before. Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel to explore this case with us right now. The setting of the story: Newcastle, located in the northeast of England. White House Road, where Mary Bell grew up, is a forgotten area on the edge of the land. The 19th century red brick houses with broken windows and walls covered in moss give off a gloomy and unsettling atmosphere. It is a place where children run freely amidst the ruins, but also a place where dark secrets are buried. Our main character, Mary Bell, was born and raised in a small house on White House Road. Her mother, Betty, gave birth to her at the age of 16. Betty was a young woman who worked as a prostitute and frequently left the house. She lacked maternal skills, and having a child was an unfortunate accident. As a result, she saw her daughter as more of a burden than a joy. Betty had attempted suicide multiple times after giving birth to Mary. On one occasion, she took sleeping pills, but a neighbor discovered her in time. In Betty's mind, Mary was a regrettable mistake. However, the responsibility of motherhood still bound her to the child, causing their relationship to be filled with tension and trauma. This led to Mary's emotional neglect. The lack of affection and material resources left deep scars on Mary's soul from her early years. Mary began to show unusual signs. She refused to eat unless the food was placed in a corner under her chair, a behavior that no one could explain. In 1960, Betty Bell did something that silenced the whole family. She threw 3-year-old Mary from a first-floor window to the ground. Although Mary miraculously survived, the injuries on her body could not be hidden. Neighbors witnessed the incident, but no one dared intervene because Betty didn't allow it and explained that it was just an accident. On another occasion, Betty gave Mary sleeping pills disguised as sweet candy. Mary slept for many hours and only woke up when her aunt, Greta Kidd, came to check on her. Greta, a determined woman, testified in court years later, confirming that Betty intentionally harmed Mary to fabricate a tragic accident. Furthermore, Betty once sold Mary to a woman named Catherine who couldn't have children and showed signs of mental instability. In desperation, Greta searched all over Newcastle and finally found Mary and brought her back. But strangely, Betty refused to hand over her daughter to anyone, even though she clearly didn't want to care for her. Family members believed that Betty suffered from Munchausen syndrome, frequently making up illnesses for Mary to attract attention. Neighbors recalled the times Betty took Mary to the hospital, demanding doctors check because the girl showed signs of a serious illness. But all the tests found nothing unusual. In 1962, when Mary was just 5 years old, her mother took her along to entertain clients. Mary had to witness her mother working, and she herself was a victim of abuse. This led to emotional distortion in Mary's soul from a very young age. On the outside, Mary appeared like any other child, but inside, she was a mess. Teachers at school noted that Mary exhibited abnormal aggression, frequently attacking her classmates and showing sudden mood changes that were unpredictable. Gradually, psychological trauma built up. Mary became a withdrawn child, harboring intense anger. At Chalrood School, she often attacked classmates, both boys and girls. Teachers commented, "Mary is an unpredictable child. When she's happy, she can be very sweet, but when angry, Mary becomes frightening, like a completely different person." Mary also showed signs of severe anxiety. She often involuntarily urinated while sleeping and was mocked by her classmates. This only increased her isolation in the school environment. Mary's only friend was Norma Bell, a neighbor who was 2 years older than her. Although they shared the same last name, they were not related by blood. Norma was gentle and obedient, often getting involved in the strange, sometimes violent games Mary came up with. At the age of 10, Mary began to develop an unusual fascination with death. She often told eerie stories about accidents or deaths of others, with a pleased smile. Later, it was revealed that Mary had witnessed a friend die in an accident right before her eyes, and instead of being scared, she became fascinated by the sensation. On May 12, 1968, a 3-year-old boy in the Scotswood neighborhood had an accident falling from the roof of a 2-story house. Fortunately, the boy survived, but was severely injured. Mary Bell was seen standing nearby at the time of the incident. Other children reported that Mary had encouraged the boy to climb onto the roof and laughed when he slipped and fell. However, when asked, Mary just shook her head and said she was just watching. There was no concrete evidence to link Mary to the incident, and the matter was quickly forgotten. 3 days later, a woman went to the police station reporting that Mary had tried to strangle her daughter. The mother claimed Mary often exhibited violent and dangerous behavior with other children. However, the police did not take these allegations seriously. They dismissed them as just children playing. On May 25, 1968, just 1 day before her 11th birthday, Mary carried out her first horrifying act. A 4-year-old boy, Martin Brown, was found in an abandoned house. His body lay on the cold wooden floor, his face pale, with no signs of life. A local worker, John Hones, was the first to discover Martin's body. He tried to perform CPR, but was unsuccessful. Mary and her best friend Norma Bell were seen standing outside, silently watching. When John turned to call for help, Mary calmly said, "He got hurt in an accident." The police were quickly notified and arrived at the scene, but at that time, no one suspected Mary, as she was only 11 years old. The next day, Mary visited Martin's home. When his mother answered the door, Mary asked, "Can I see Martin one last time?" The mother, still grieving, slammed the door. It was only later that she realized the eerie nature of Mary's question. In the following days, Mary and Norma kept going near the crime scene, offering different explanations for Martin's death. They told the police that Martin had been bullied to death by a group of older children. However, there were no signs of abuse on the boy's body. The police also found a bottle of sleeping pills near Martin's body and suggested that the boy might have accidentally ingested them, leading to his death. But the autopsy report found no traces of drugs in his body. Initially, the police concluded that this was an accident, as they could not identify a clear motive or suspect. Meanwhile, Mary began to show strange signs. She drew a picture depicting Martin lying motionless with a bottle of sleeping pills beside him. Teachers noticed the oddness of the drawing, but did not think it was a confession. Mary continued to boast to her classmates at school that she knew how to make people stop breathing. The other children were scared, but no one dared report Mary. She gradually became a terrifying figure in the eyes of her friends. The investigators had no idea that, while they were concluding this was just an accident, Mary was already planning her next move. The silence of those around her allowed the darkness within her soul to grow stronger. On May 26, 1968, Mary attacked Norma Bell's younger sister. Her behavior became so uncontrollable that Norma's father had to intervene and kick Mary out of the house. Warnings from adults began to surface, but no one thought that Mary could be a real threat. Mary became increasingly violent and strange. In an argument with Norma, she attacked her friend by punching her in the face and head. After Norma cried and begged, Mary coldly said, "I'm ready to kill more kids if I want to." Not long after, Mary and Norma Bell caused a vandalism incident at the local kindergarten. The two sneaked in by crawling through the roof and destroyed everything inside. Books were thrown around, chairs and tables were overturned, and ink and paint were splattered everywhere. When leaving, Mary and Norma left 4 scrawled messages on the walls. The words contained strange spelling errors but had suspicious content, such as, "We killed Martin." This cryptic confession was dismissed by the police as just children's pranks. Had these messages been taken more seriously, another horrific crime might not have occurred. On July 31, 1968, Brian Howe, a 3-year-old boy, went missing after playing near his home. After hours of searching, Brian's body was found in an empty lot near where Martin Brown had died. The boy was strangled, and there were strange cuts on his body. The letter M was crudely carved into his skin with a razor blade. Mary and Norma returned to the scene after the crime. Mary used scissors to cut Brian's hair and inflicted additional injuries on his body. Norma tried to stop her, but Mary threatened her. This cold act revealed Mary's unusual obsession with controlling death. When the police arrived at the scene, they noticed key details such as the broken scissors and the carvings on the body as important clues. The police began to suspect that the messages left at the kindergarten were not pranks but actual confessions. The investigation expanded significantly, involving hundreds of investigators from various areas. Over 1,200 children in the region were questioned. Mary and Norma quickly became prime suspects due to their strange behavior. On August 1, 1968, Mary and Norma were summoned by the police. During questioning, Norma appeared nervous, shaky, and repeatedly changed her story. Mary, on the other hand, remained completely calm and focused, coldly staring directly at the investigators. Both admitted to playing with Brian on the day of his death, but denied seeing him later in the afternoon. Their accounts conflicted with other witness testimonies. The next day, Mary was interrogated for the second time. She claimed to have seen an 8-year-old local boy playing with Brian and using scissors to cut a cat's tail. She also said the boy had hit Brian multiple times. However, the police quickly verified that the boy was not at the scene on that day. Mary accurately described the broken scissors found at the crime scene, a detail only known to the police. Chief Inspector James Adoption immediately suspected Mary was the killer. Norma was questioned again. Under police pressure, she confessed that Mary enjoyed strangling children and damaging their bodies for her satisfaction. However, Norma repeatedly blamed Mary and denied her own direct involvement. When confronted, Mary remained calm. She neither denied nor admitted the accusations. When asked why she carved the letter M on Brian's body, she simply replied, "I wanted him to remember me. Besides, he struggled too much, so I had to use more force to strangle him." She also said, "I made Martin stop breathing the same way, but it was easier because he was younger." This explained why the police initially considered Martin's death an accident. Mary's small hands left no clear signs of violent force. This was effectively a confession, but as an 11-year-old, Mary likely did not fully grasp the gravity of her admission. Norma's family tried to defend her, claiming she had been manipulated by Mary and that Mary had exhibited violent tendencies before. However, this was insufficient to absolve Norma of responsibility. Once initial results emerged, news of the case spread quickly. Newspapers dubbed Mary Bell the devil with the face of an angel. But the big question remained, what turned an 11-year-old into a killer? The police collected additional statements from children who had been bullied by Mary. Some reported that Mary often talked about killing as a game and bragged about knowing how to make people stop breathing. During a psychological evaluation, Mary was asked how she felt watching Brian die. She responded briefly, without emotion, "I just wanted to know how it felt." Psychological experts concluded that Mary had a personality disorder and lacked empathy. However, they also noted that her violent and abusive childhood played a significant role in shaping her behavior. When the investigation concluded, Mary Bell was charged with manslaughter with aggravating circumstances. Norma was considered a minor accomplice due to Mary's influence over her. On December 17, 1968, Newcastle's courtroom was packed. The entire city wanted to know the fates of Mary Bell and Norma Bell. Mary, with her cold eyes, showed no signs of worry as she entered the courtroom. Norma, on the other hand, was trembling and avoided eye contact with everyone. Prosecutors presented the case with chilling details. From Martin Brown's death to Brian Howe's, all evidence pointed to Mary as the main perpetrator. However, they also highlighted her tragic and traumatic childhood. Norma was declared not guilty due to insufficient evidence proving her direct involvement in the murders. Mary was convicted of 2 counts of manslaughter. Psychological experts concluded she had a personality disorder characterized by a lack of remorse and an inability to comprehend the consequences of her actions. Ultimately, the judge sentenced Mary to life imprisonment. She would only be considered for release if authorities deemed her no longer a threat to society. However, no one believed that day would come. After the trial, Mary was sent to Red Bank Institution, a facility for children with antisocial behavior in Merseyside. There, Mary was the only female inmate. 2 years later, in 1970, Mary's case continued to shock the British press. Some journalists approached Mary at Red Bank, where she agreed to be interviewed. Mary even wrote a letter addressed to children, advising them not to do bad things. However, the public saw this as a publicity stunt to gain attention. In the following years, Mary experienced several transfers between institutions due to her age and incidents of harassment in prison. In May 1980, Mary, then 23 years old, was released after serving 12 years. However, her name and image remained the focus of intense scrutiny. Authorities decided to protect Mary's new identity so she could start a new life, which is why the name you hear in this video is an alias. In the years that followed, Mary lived a reclusive life, staying out of the public eye. But the question remains, can a cold-blooded killer truly change? Did she genuinely reform, or is she simply hiding, waiting for another opportunity? Mary Bell's story is not only a warning about the consequences of an abusive childhood, but also a lesson about the limits of the legal system and human psychology. To this day, the name Mary Bell remains a symbol of fear and horror. This video concludes here. Thank you for following this gripping story. If you found it interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss other fascinating stories.